2, 1.
Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by EXP Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
The year was 1977. Star Wars was the #1 movie in the country. Jimmy Carter was president, and interest rates were what? What were they at, Clark?
About 21%.
21%. So
what?
So in the studio today we have Clarke Broome. He's an agent with EXP Realty, and he is going to talk about what his career has looked like, because he's been doing this since 1977.
You weren't even born in 1977.
I wasn't even born. I don't even know if I was an itch in my daddy's pants in 1977.
Whoa.
But
this is a family-friendly show, Johnny.
It is. That's why, it's all about growing the family, too. So in 1977, what were interest rates, Clark?
They were about 21%.
That's it?
I had just started real estate, and so I had 4 deals in escrow.
Wow.
Rates went way up with Jimmy Carter in office. I remember sitting watching him on television with a cardigan, sweater, in front of a fireplace, saying things are tough. We need to all cut back and all this kind of stuff, which was counterintuitive to me.
Yeah.
And so I was able to save 2 of those deals. And got really, really good at creative financing, assumptions, wraparounds, all these kind of tools we used back then just to survive in the industry.
Wow. So it was 21%. And what did a house cost? Like 2 apples and a...
Well, my very first house was $21,000.
$21,000.
Yeah,
where was that house? Where?
I was actually over before Antelope Woods was built, the old section of Antelope. And this was right after the Roseville train blast, if anybody remembers that.
I don't.
And so Antelope was pretty much not destroyed, but damaged very heavily during the train blast. So it no longer was an incorporated city. The house that we moved into, my mom was very successful in real estate. So as a wedding gift, gave us the down payment on the house that we bought.
That's a good mama.
Yeah.
What was the down payment?
Down payment was, it would have been FHA at the time. So I think like 3%, something like that. So less than $1,000 we got into the house.
And $1,000 down payment.
It was crazy. And
what was your annual income, though? Like ballpark?
Annual income, if I remember right, I was making like, $6.75 an hour or something like that, working for Cordova Chemical, which is a division of Aerojet.
Okay.
And I was part of a union, AFL-CIO union. And so our income, maybe like $10,000 a year or something, $12,000 a year.
Yeah, so 1080, so 1,080 hours at $675 is $7,200-$7,300. So if you're picking up OT, getting some overtime.
Yeah, so we'd picked up a lot of overtime because I worked shift work. So it was really crazy. The place I worked at did what they called the Midwestern swing, which is days. So it's 7 days on, 3 days off, 8 days on, 4 days off. And then they switch us from days, swing shift to graveyard in between those. And that's where I really learned to work with a calendar. Yeah. So the graveyard, of course, paid us a premium when we were on the graveyard shift.
Yeah. Got it. And so you were working for Aerojet.
Yes.
And then you were doing night classes to get your real estate license?
Yeah, it's I share, my mom was very successful in real estate. She was the #1 realtor of the year several times, citizen of the year.
Wow.
I think she was the first lady board president of the Placer Association of Realtors. And so I grew up in that environment. But I was 19, when there was a lot of success, and I really resisted it. Then I got married.
You resisted real estate, or
resisted real estate? Yes.
Okay.
And because she was working 24/7, basically, a lot of hours. She was always there for the important things. She was a great mom. Raised 6 children.
Wow.
My father was killed in a car accident when I was 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she had just gotten real estate like a year earlier. And so she just ramped it up and just really supported all of us, a nice lifestyle. So I saw how hard she worked, and I was having too much fun. 19 years old, no cares in the world. I was racing
live forever.
Yeah, I was racing motocross, having a good time, racing pro a little bit.
Wow.
And then got married. Had our first child, and I was working at Cordova Chemical. I worked in aerial survey, worked in landscaping, building swimming pools as I was a kid with a pool company, and then was working at Cordova Chemical. Then I realized I started looking at people who were there 5 or 10 years longer than me.
Yeah.
And not a put down or anything. It just wasn't for me. I didn't want that life. And so at that time, real estate was booming pretty good. It was before Carter. It was booming pretty good. So I said, I'm going to go to real estate school. And because of my shift work, I could do that. And the real estate school was right over here off of Arden Way. It was Anthony School of Real Estate. And went ahead and got my real estate license.
Okay.
And back then, companies wouldn't accept part-time agents. You had to
really?
be full-time. Had to be full-time.
Let's bring that back.
Yeah, I agree. And had to be full-time. So I went from a pretty decent income, I mean, it was high hourly wage, to 100% commission overnight.
Wow.
And
So you just burned the boats and said, I'm all in.
I burned the boats, jumped in 100%.
Wow.
Went to a small company, Dimension Real Estate. Some very good friends. In fact, I just saw Rick Nito just recently. He was one of the brokers of the company, along with Barney Jones and Bob Whalen. And it was just Robert Wagner. So all those owned Dimension Real Estate right on Auburn Boulevard in Citrus Heights, and really kind of cut my teeth there. And so I really worked hard, but starved for the first 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
My mom took me out to dinner a lot, took our family out to dinner.
Did she give you any deals?
Yeah.
Did she give you any deals?
None.
Not one?
No,
There you go.
She was working hard in real estate herself, and still had a lot of things to support my younger brothers and sisters. And so I just and she gave me a lot of advice, and she was an amazing agent. And in fact, I wish she was around today. With the business models we have today, she had been a rock star in it. And so proceeded that, and then started getting some traction and started doubling my income every year. I changed companies, went over to Sacramento Realty, which was a franchise.
So as you were growing, what were you doing? Like, what was working for you then to double your income?
Just a lot of hard work. I mean, I did open houses. I never did a farm area. I just felt, for me, knocking on doors just wasn't my thing.
Okay.
I didn't like people coming to my door.
Yeah.
And so I never did that. A lot of floor time, did a lot of open houses. And honestly, I was so tuned into real estate, I could hear the word real estate at 50 yards. I mean, so when somebody, like, we'd be at dinner, it drove my wife a little nuts, but it was dinner, I could hear the word real estate, my ears would perk up, and I'd go there and I'd just say, I couldn't help overhear you're saying that you're looking for real estate. When I'm a realtor here locally, I'll work really hard for you. And I develop clients that way.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you'd be out to dinner and
everywhere.
So you still do that?
So it was date night.
Yeah.
It was date night and prospecting all
That's
in
right.
one.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
my gosh, love that.
Yeah, it drove my kids nuts too as we got older.
Yeah,
too, so.
it's come full circle, right? Mom was working hard and it was driving you crazy, and now you're the one driving the kids crazy.
That's right.
There you
Absolutely.
go. So what do you think it takes in today's market? So that, I mean, if you were an agent today, if you were starting over today, what would you suggest?
Number one is the effort never changes. I mean, to be successful, what they call 10,000 hours of mastery.
Yep.
You've heard, I forget.
Seth Godin, I think.
Yeah, Seth Godin said that. Or Gadwell. Gadwell, I think.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Gladwell.
Yeah.
10,000 hours of mastery. However you get the quicker you go through those 10,000 hours, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah.
So I'd say today, boy, the technology is the biggest change. The principles are always the same. I mean, we service our clients. We build organizations that service our clients. We put the clients first. All that, those principles are all the same. And but the technology we have today, what we used to, because I mean, really, we ran newspaper ads. We
Wait, what's a newspaper?
Yeah, I know, exactly. You have to Google it. But, so we'd put newspaper ads out on our properties, and we'd have a lot of signs out. We'd pass out cards. I had a stack of flyers for every listing I had. Everywhere I went, I passed out those flyers. Whether it was at the multiple listing meetings or I'd stop by a real estate office, pass out my flyers. I just was networking.
Yep.
And so today, we just do that digitally.
Sure.
And I think that number one thing I would recommend agent, because we're working with a lot of new agents right now, is take whatever time it takes and build a database.
I agree.
Start out with a CRM. We use KV Core, which is excellent. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones, but that's the one we're focused on. And just build that database. And then do geo farming, where you pick an area that you want to kind of dominate and just start, building relationships there. You can do that digitally. You can do that through several touches on a monthly basis to your clients in that area. And then as you're out, I would also highly recommend, and I know Brent Grove, just a mentor of mine, really, really focuses on open houses.
Yes.
Because you're opening up your office. And I recommend even during the week, just call it your office.
Absolutely.
And you generate, and then from those clients you get off of open houses, you put them in your database, and you keep those touches, because whatever the statistics are, how many people buy homes, was it every 5 years now?
5 years, 7 years, yeah.
5 years to 7 years. Well, if you had 300 people in your database, what divide 5 into that, and you can kind of figure out what your lead source would be on a yearly basis.
As long as you stay in touch.
Yeah, you got to stay in touch.
Yeah. So you hit some golden nuggets. I just want to circle back on. Number one, the open houses.
Yes.
If you mentioned floor time, there's a lot of people probably listening to this right now. They don't even know what floor time is.
Floor time was gold.
It was gold.
Yeah.
Like when Valerie and I got started in a little, in Kalinga, floor time was valuable because it was the premier brokerage at the time in Kalinga. Maybe it still is. I don't know. I haven't been there in a while. But people would walk in and they were wanting to buy and sell houses.
Yeah.
Like they were high quality leads, but that just doesn't happen anymore. So if people aren't walking into real estate offices, you have to go to where the people are. And by doing that, you can achieve that through open houses.
Right. Through open houses. And then, of course, the social media today. One thing nice about, like KV Core, for example, is a CRM, and I'm sure a lot of CRMs do this, is you get a digital presence out there, whether it's on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn more business orientated. You just get your footprint out there, because you want to earn the title of my realtor with your clients.
Yep.
My realtor. And you treat your clients so well that, I sold a luxury property a couple years ago with a very good friend of mine, my mentor in business actually,
oh, wow.
For over 40 years.
Wow.
And we sold his house in Granite Bay, and I just really, stepped it up. And luxury, I mean, you really service your clients, you're there. And see, listings have babies.
Yep.
Because how well you do there, and how you interact with the clients that come through the property, and also the clients in the neighborhood that see what you're doing and how well you treated your client, you get referrals. So.
Absolutely. And the other thing you touched on that was really important is creating that database. So there's so many agents, I don't care if they've been doing this 1 year or a decade, they don't have a database. And
Correct.
so when we onboard people on our team, that's the first thing we do is we help you create this database, and then we actually spend marketing dollars promoting you to your database.
That's right.
Because if you were to sell say you're a dentist and you were going to sell your practice, your dental practice, that database is essentially your medical practice's book of business.
Yep.
So that's your book of business. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you are in financial services, if you own an auto repair shop and you have clients that come in, that database is your book of business.
That's right.
And so if you don't have that, you're really missing the boat on building a sustainable business in today's marketplace.
Yeah. And it's staying in contact with that database, as you mentioned. I mean, it's like you can have a database, but if you're not connecting with them on their birthdays or anniversaries, special times, then the database isn't working for you.
Yeah, they forget about you.
Yeah, they forget about you.
I tell people all the time, my own mother, who is probably the show's best listener, by the way, I heard the new episode. I heard the new Mom, it just dropped. It just dropped 30 minutes ago. How'd you listen to it already? I listened to it at 2.5 times the speed, and I know when it comes out. But what she was even doing for a while was she was referring business to other agents in other markets. And I was like, Mom, I can help you with that.
That's right.
So just that you have to stay in touch, even with the people who you think are in your corner, and maybe they are, but they just don't even know that you're able to support people in other markets or support people in other towns.
Yeah.
And you just got to stay top of mind.
Yeah, and you got to promote yourself to them. I mean, in a not boastful way, but mentioning, hey, this is what I do. Here's how I can help you. Here's a network we have all over the country in 24
countries.
Foreign countries. So I mean, just let them know that. And one of the great things that I we teach our agents now is that because your clients, one of them may be a doctor, may have a real or an office, and they may be looking to relocate, and they may ask you, do you do commercial real estate? the answer should always be yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we have like Paul Frank is
Exactly.
one of our commercial business partners. You can partner with him,
Yep.
and that way you keep it in the family. Because Paul always says this. He says one thing for sure that every property I deal with in commercial, one thing they all have in common: they all have a house. They all
Yep.
live somewhere.
They all dealt with a real estate agent.
Absolutely.
And so when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about how you grew your career and how at one point you even had at least one plane?
Yeah, I actually had. I've owned 3 planes, but I had 2 at one time.
All right, we'll talk about that when we come back.
Great.
We're back with Clarke Broome, and he got started in real estate in 1977. Actually, like, what was it, 1 month within the same time frame Tom got started, right? Tom Daves.
We've known each other that whole time because we had business together and we knew each other and we had a lot of common friends and yeah.
Probably had more hair at the time.
Small world.
Yeah, I had a lot more hair, yeah.
Well-
I actually had hair almost down to my shoulders when I started real estate.
Really?
Wow.
Had a Fu Manchu mustache. Yeah.
Oh man, I wish we had some pictures of that.
Oh, yeah, I have some.
Yeah, Diane will get it, send them over.
Oh, yeah, she'll blackmail me.
Oh, there we go. That's awesome.
Yeah,
But-
you should have seen our just before we got married, our picture. Yeah, we looked like flower children,
So right before I got married, I didn't cut my so I was welding in the oil fields.
Oh, okay.
And I had this nasty beard, and everybody kept getting on me to cut my beard, and I was like, no, I'm not going to cut it. No, I'm not going to cut it. And then I started just cutting it in the most like horrific, like trimming it in the most horrific ways.
Yeah.
So like it ended. Just the sides coming off, and then I had this long chin, this crazy like curly Q like mustache, and then the chin came off, and it was just the mustache.
I got to see pictures of that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they're
that'd be fun.
hilarious. And then right before the wedding, I shaved off the mustache, so everything was cool. But
Well, my mustache started getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Pretty soon, I shaved it off and cut
There you
my
go.
hair, and
yep.
yeah.
So my force is thinning too.
Yeah.
Who knows what I'll look like in 30
Well,
years?
back then too. I mean, because I was young. I was 22 years when I started in real estate.
Oh, wow.
And so my peer group couldn't afford homes.
Yeah.
And so I had a kind of a hippie van, and so I traded that in for a Buick LeSabre, so it looked more businesslike.
There you go.
And I wore 3-piece suits.
Yep.
Everywhere. That was kind of the standard back then. But I figured if I looked young, if I dressed the part, dressed professionally,
Yep.
talked professionally, listened more than I talk, which turned out to be really a valuable thing in developing relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Valerie and I did the same thing. I actually used to wear a lot of suits, a lot of 3-piece suits.
Yeah.
Because we were younger, and so the same reasoning you did it. And then that's also why we got our broker's licenses early on.
Yeah.
As soon as the 2-year mark hit, we got our broker's licenses because people were like, especially for Valerie,
Right.
she was younger than me, and they go, Are you even licensed? Can you even do this? She's like, yes, I'm a broker. I'm not just a realtor, I'm a broker.
I love it.
But
so I went through and got my broker's license too. I just went straight through Anthony. I actually got the two years waived on mine because of some back then you could have associated work that would count towards that 2 years.
Okay.
And I worked in the land survey company, with a photogrammetry company, and we were able to get them to accept that as my 2 years because I'd worked at that company for a while.
Yeah.
And was able to get my broker's license right away.
There you go. Well, I'm jealous. I wasn't able to do that.
Yeah.
But so you were growing your business. It's growing. It's 1977. Years have passed. It's now, growing. But at one point, I really want to cover this. You did have at least one plane at one point.
Yeah. What happened is kind of the way my business kind of course went, is that back in 1983. I was exposed to, I got around a group of very, very successful people. They understood the value of passive income. Mm-hmm. And so they taught me through a business, networking, how to build passive income. So I was working full-time in real estate, didn't back off of that. I still was number one in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think it was let me back up a little bit. I opened up an office the same week I actually was exposed to other businesses. And so we went in that office, me and several other partners, brokers, owned the Northern California rights to a franchise.
Okay.
And it was right there. It's, I guess, considered Granite Bay now. And, so we started in that office and did that for a couple years. And I decided that I really didn't like owning an office.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it you didn't like?
Well, a couple of things. Number one is 50% of my time was spent in management, and honestly, I made more money as a salesperson in my own production than I would with the company. And I kid people. I say there's a reason they call it broker. We were getting broker. And and we hit some economic times at that time in the real estate. And so I turned it over to my partners and went back to the company I left, which happened to be where my mom was working at the time. So I got a chance to work there.
Nice.
But we worked diligently, still doing high production. And my second business started developing pretty good sized passive income. And I've always been into aviation. I got my pilot's license when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
In fact, just before I turned 21, just after I got married, got my license. But it was very expensive to fly. So I really didn't own a plane. In fact, my mom and my wife used to give me, used to give me flying time as birthday and Christmas presents.
Oh, that's great.
And so I'd only flew, a few hours a year, which is not really good. And so one of my goals, one of my dreams was to really buy an airplane. And so in the process of building a side business and developing that into success, we became financially independent when I think it was 32, Diana was 33.
Wow.
And still kept my real estate license, still doing a little bit of that. But we really started living a pretty nice lifestyle. And so my first goal, and actually even before we got to that point, before I left full-time production in real estate, I bought a plane, a partnership in a plane.
Okay, what plane was it?
Cessna 182 Turbo RG.
Okay.
And the last two letters were Papa Kilo. I always remember that.
Love
and
it.
then flew that for a while. My partner, I was flying way more hours than my partner was, so we decided to sell the airplane. And then I bought a 210 Cessna Turbo RG and fixed it all up, and just that was a great airplane.
Wow.
I mean, hold our whole family, hold 6 people. We flew everywhere. I was probably flying 250, 300 hours a year, which is a lot in an airplane.
Wow.
And we'd hop off and go down to Disneyland. We'd fly the kids. We'd go over to like Columbia, the little old stagecoach town, land there and walk down to the town. Fly up to South Lake Tahoe all the time and ride horseback. They used to have a horseback place over there, play golf.
So it was your minivan.
It was my minivan. And then I decided, because if you know anything about aviation, anytime you're flying, there's 3 conditions in aviation. There's weather, there's nighttime, and terrain. Okay, anytime you're flying 2 out of those 3, you should probably have a twin-engine airplane. And I was flying all 3 all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, okay, safety of the family, plus I wanted a little bit bigger airplane, so we bought a 421 Cessna,
Wow.
Golden Eagle. And that was a lot of fun. At that time, I had a full-time pilot, and he was a business associate of mine who was a former military, full-bird colonel. In fact, he was in charge of the SR-71 program Manifest.
Oh my gosh, what a great guy to be flying with.
Oh man, he was wonderful, and I've kind of lost contact with him, but it's just a wonderful guy. And he kind of became like a second father or uncle to all my kids.
Yeah.
They all knew him. So we'd fly back from Hawaii on a trip, and our children were home. And so he'd go by, pick up our children, hop in our airplane, meet us in L.A., and we'd go to Disneyland. So it was really just a great lifestyle.
Wow.
And still love it to this day. Now I live closer to an airport than I ever have, but I don't own an airplane right now.
Go figure.
Yeah, that's a goal of mine here.
So you grew your business, you had all this passive income, and then what prompted you to, because you've been with a lot of different brokerages as well, right?
I have, yes.
So your license is currently hung with EXP.
Yes.
What, out of all of your experiences doing this for decades and decades, what is it about EXP that you found so appealing?
Yeah. Well, let me back up a little bit, because in the early 2000s, me and my business partner decided to diversify and create a development company, Azione Development.
Okay.
And I think Azione in Italian stands for New Day or something like that, New Horizon. And so we acquired a lot of land, and we started developing it. We didn't realize how long it took to develop in the capital region in California, basically. Yeah. And so we got caught with the bad economic times. And now, because of my passive income, I tell people, the icing on the cake was gone, but the cake is still good. And so we survived that time. But I learned a lot during that period of time, dealing with different brokerages. I was number one at the office I was at, which was Centex Realty at the time. I was the number one commercial agent, and because of our own acquisitions and us doing it for other people. And so I got a chance to look in and out of different brokerages and so forth, franchisings, especially franchises. I mean, obviously there's a lot of great companies out there, but basically you're working for the company. You're working for the franchise. I've known Brent Gove ever since he was 18. And I was introduced by his father. He was a dishwasher at Denny's, was going to Chico State, and I got to know him pretty well. And we mentored him in a business that he became very successful at. Yeah. And then he started in real estate. And I'd been in contact with him, not frequently, but after this whole thing in about 2000, I think it was 16, 17, a couple of people showed me. Or talk to me about EXP. They really didn't show me the model explained or anything like that.
What was your initial reaction when they presented you?
I just wasn't interested.
Yeah.
I just
didn't see the value.
I didn't see the value because nobody really explained it to me, and they kind of showed it. Kind of looked like a network marketing kind of business and so forth, which I'm very familiar with. Yeah. And it's a phenomenal. In fact, it's the best business model out there. That particular business model, and but I just and honestly, people kind of shared it with me. They were good friends, but. From a business standpoint of view, I was more successful than they were.
Okay.
And then a buddy of mine that I met at church, who I've been in business with, a guy named Don Peach.
I see you're holding one of his pens too.
I am. I'm holding one with great pens too. Yeah. He was in Steve Hillier's organization, independent brokerage called New Vision. And originally Steve just said, that EXP is not going to work or anything like that. And I said, I respected Steve, and I wasn't really paying too much attention. And then he took his whole brokerage, this was just a few years ago, into EXP. Yep. And so I was having lunch with Don, and Steve shows up. And he started talking to me about it. So I had all these questions. I knew Brent. So I text him. As soon as that lunch we had, I text Brent, says, "Are you open for breakfast?" And so I sat down with Brent, and I had a whole list of questions because I was interested. And when I really saw the model explained, I saw that we could offer realtors something they never had before, ownership in the company without the liability, without the capital investment. You could build a brokerage, whatever size you want to build, within the same brokerage. So you can actually get paid like a broker without really being the broker. And I thought, wow,
locally, nationally, internationally.
Yeah, exactly. And my previous business, I was in all 50 states and 31 countries. Oh wow! And so I understand the power of that duplication and leveraging. And so when I saw this model, I thought, boy, everything I've learned in the past. Being successful in other businesses through, the School of Hard Knocks, that combined with this business model is a perfect marriage. And that's what I got excited about because I know how I know the in and outs of how this type of business works. Yep. And here you own stock, you rev share, all these kinds of things that, you get paid for contributing to the growth of the company. Yep. So compensation for contribution. Yeah. And all that fit right with the principles I've always learned from very, very successful people. I had the opportunity and just incredible, blessing to know billionaires, know people that really understand business, and every one of them leverage. They have a business that creates passive income. And the thing that I remember Warren Buffett always saying is, if you don't figure out a way to make money while you're sleeping, you'll always be working. Yep. And J. Paul Getty, he said that I'd much rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own.
Love that.
And so I saw where we could add value to people, help people become successful, whether they just want to be production or whether they want to be business builders. They can do both. And I saw the diversity and the just unlimited opportunity, and got excited about it. Yeah. Now, honestly, I didn't know any realtors.
Really, after all those years, you didn't know?
After all those years, I got away from. I had some friends who were in real estate, but not very many because I hadn't been active in production. Okay. So that's been kind of
been too busy flying the plane.
Flying the plane and doing other businesses, and we had the opportunity to speak for our organization outside of real estate, all over the world. St. Petersburg, Russia, Tallinn, Estonia, the Philippines, Bangkok, Thailand, all these places, and it was very exciting. And so
Well, you bring up a good point about the economic model. Like most people just discredit it. They can't see past what their misperception is of EXP. And so that's honestly, I joined EXP for two reasons. One, Brent Gove.
Yeah.
I believe proximity is power, and I just want to be close to that guy.
Yep.
His ethics and his work ethic are two things that inspire me, and I wanted to emulate. And so I'm like, okay, I want to be close to that guy. And the second thing was the economic model.
The model.
I'm like, man, if I just keep doing what I'm doing at my current brokerage, I'm going to keep getting what I get. But if I take that the same number of deals I'm closing, the same exact system that I have, and I move it over to EXP, I'm making way more money.
Yeah. Now that you have some ongoing income.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, whenever you want to get off the transactional treadmill, how much income do you have in place?
Yeah.
Well, my mom is a good example. 40 years in real estate, exemplary, icon, career. She was forced to retire because of Alzheimer's.
Oh, man.
And she was working at Keller Williams at the time, and she had nothing to show for it. I mean, she had Social Security and things like that, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
And fortunately, she was able to keep her home. My sister was able to move in, and we were able to help her.
Sure.
But that was an awakening to me after 40 years at the top of the industry, and she was only good as her last sale.
Yeah.
And so I saw this economic model far surpasses that. And another thing too, not only aside from the economic model, but just the culture of it. See, the culture is when we're all owners, I've never seen a business where there's been so much collaboration, where there's been so much help. I've had people not even related to my business from an economic model at all help me. Get on three-way calls with people. I mean, I've never seen that. I went to my very first event, which was EXPCon, blew my mind. I was trained by Tommy Hopkins. Those that remember.
I know Tom Hopkins.
Yeah, Tom Hopkins, Champions Unlimited.
Yep, I think he was at a couple EXP events. Was he at the EXPCon event?
Yeah, I go in there, I go like deja vu. I mean, he did his 12 points or whatever. It was just like I could close my eyes and picture it back in 1977.
Wow.
I was the first guy in that office to really get into his program, his Fast Start program. From Champions Unlimited, I was probably the only one in the office that really just studied that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. That's something that you said earlier too, though. What is it? Principles are enduring, practices are
Principles are timeless. Practices are timely. Depends on the culture and the environment. Like the culture or the practices of today are totally different than the practices back in 1977.
Mm-hmm. We're not driving around with flyers in our car.
Yeah. You're not running around with Office and NCR press hard 3 copies. We're not doing that anymore. And the MLS book, which was always outdated. Yeah.
So if people are looking to maybe grow their real estate career, what's a great way for them to reach out to you?
You can reach me at actually my phone number, cell number.
Sure.
916-416-9664. Welcome to call me anytime. Of course, I have an email too, which is Clarke, Clarke, V as in Victor, N as in November, V as in Victor at yahoo.com.
Got it. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us. You can call or text anytime, 530-GET-MORE.
Be glad to have any conversation.
And we'll connect you with Clarke. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, see you.